It's McLeod, and there's a KC Cup currently going on, so it's time for the KC Cup tier list. We are in a really good format, is what I would say if Tachyon didn't exist specifically. Quick explanation of all the tiers. Tachyon tier, I think this one is really self-explanatory. There's currently one undisputable best deck that is going to be the most played and the one with the most topping decks in this KC Cup. So get ready to play against that. It's a deck so powerful that even if you come with a counter to this strategy, you're not sure you're gonna win because we'll get to talk about Tachyon. Tier 1, also very powerful decks that are not tier 0 because, you know, they're clear counters and their power level is not as absurd as the tier 0 deck, but these decks are still decks that should be ready to face, prepared for, have some common counters in your deck, if you will, and overall really potent decks that would probably be the best decks if the tier 0 did not exist. Tier 2 decks a little bit less powerful, more clear and precise weaknesses. Some of these can have potentially good matchups against the tier 1 decks. Some of these are just really strong on their own, but kind of like lacking in terms of power ceiling or very easy to disrupt. So good decks, not as good as the tier 1, of course not as good as tier 0. Rogue is basically anything that is built with a clear way to defeat the current top threats, whether it's by being able to uniquely use some cards that other decks do not have access to, or by playing on a completely different level as it is the case for some of those. Even though we are in a tier 0 format, I still believe there are like some rogue decks that can have like a decent-ish win rate against Tachyon going first very specifically. Like we're talking 52% win rate. You know, it's fine against Tachyon going first. And last but not least, Copium. Here are all the decks that I think are completely garbo. That you'll notice that there are very few actual decks in this list. That's because if I put every other deck out there, you know, all the stuff like Salamangreat, Burning Abyss, Orcus, this sort of stuff, the Copium tier would be like 7 pages long. Let's start with the obvious. Tachyon, tier 0. Why is the deck so powerful? Because going first, it sets up a board of Tachyon with an Omni-Negate in hand, plus Felgrand or Dingus Super Protection, plus whatever back row they drew, because this is a deck that is insanely consistent thanks to the skill, can overextend, well not just overextend, but like build a board from practically nothing, and is also able to play, you know, all the limit 3 back row that they can even draw into if they're playing stuff like Trade-In, this sort of stuff. Some versions are even playing Giant Coach McGurk, which is very fun, and of course there's an FTK version going around, currently being played even in this format. That's going first, but going second, because the deck is so able to build the board, it is still rather difficult to interact with. The fact that Tachyon Transmigration can be activated from hand means that from the moment they summon Tachyon Dragon, if they have it in hand or if they search it with a skill, that's one less point of interaction for you. That's one less back row or monster effect that is going to be relevant, you know? That's kind of annoying. This deck is like really difficult to play against. It does not really care about any of the hand traps of the current format. Like, the fuck is Effect Veiler gonna do against this, you know? What is DD Crow supposed to accomplish against this deck? So, yeah, very fun format, very fun deck to be facing. There are counters that the community has come up with, you know, stuff like Mischief of the Gnomes, Xyz and Core, but these cards are like good specifically in this matchup and will not be as good in other matchups, so it's not a best idea to go full in on these cards. Stuff like Kaiju's more generic, more applicable, but then your opponent has a Kaiju that you have to deal with. Tier 1, Shiranui. I think Shiranui is like the best deck in a format in which Tachyon does not exist. It's very clear that this deck is like able to play through a lot of back row, has a lot of like combo starters and extenders, some diversity in the plays that it can do. Like, you can do the classic Scale Saga setup turn 1, but you can also do a Vampire Sucker plus Yuki-Onna Crave if you have the Mizuki to enable this sort of combo. And then, you know, you get to draw cards with Vampire Saga, which means you get to draw your back row, and then, thanks to Samsara, don't fear getting OTK'd, and then you can OTK right back with the Sun Saga. Is it Sun Saga or Shogun Saga? I think it's Shogun Saga that gets really big. I've played these cards for like years and I still don't know their names. Really, really good deck, much easier to interact with. You know, DD Crow really cripples the deck. Mischief of the Gnomes is like okay-ish against this deck because it stops them from getting into the level 7 Shiranui Synchro, whose name I definitely remember. And then, you know, stuff like Forbidden Chalice on the Scaled Saga or the Sun Saga. There's a whole variety of back row. Ice Dragon's Prison is very good against this deck also. You know, so yeah, strong deck, really strong deck. Not as strong as Tachyon, but like one of the few decks that can challenge Tachyon and have like a really good matchup going first and not immediately concede going second. Well, the tier 2 decks, because I don't think I'm going to put anything else in tier 1. Mayakashi, very strong deck also. Not as versatile as Shiranui, much easier to disrupt. You know, this deck has a lot more about DD Crow than Shiranui, because if Shiranui mildly cares about DD Crow, this one really doesn't like getting crowed on the Yukio and not triggering Graves, so that's an issue. And then, you know, it's a lot more linear than Shiranui is. Your gameplay doesn't vary that much. You're just shotgunning these Yukis and Grave to revive pretty much the same synchro monsters every duel, so there's that. A deck also like can't afford to run as much generic disruption as the Shiranui stuff. It relies more on in-archetype disruption. Yeah, kind of an issue as well, and you know, it's not a bad deck, but it's no Shiranui. While I'm in tier 2, I'm gonna put Tenyi there. I'm not sure if Tenyi is better or worse than Mayakashi. I'm gonna say it's better, because I think Tenyi is better at dealing with Tachyon because it can play Kaijus, and because it has access to like more extension that doesn't care as much if one card gets Strength Migration, but also, well, both of these decks are used to IDP really bad, so that's also an issue. It's really close, but I don't know, I have more of a soft spot for Tenyi. I think Tenyi is, the fact that you have like 2 dedicated flex spots in Tenyi, that you can switch with, you know, it can be DD Crows, can be Kaijus, can be Veilers. I think this is part of the reason why the deck is so durable. Also, the fact that you're not tied to a dedicated skill means that if the FTK runs rampant, you can switch from Legend of the Heroes to Life Point Boost Alpha, which kind of nullifies the FTK, but then you still have to play against Tachyon, so that's still kind of annoying. But yes, Tenyi is still a really solid deck. One that I expect is going to get hit by the KC Cup because it's been around for a while. It's not necessarily the most powerful one. It does not present the most dangerous board for Tachyon and all the decks to face. But it's pretty decent. It's not bad at all. And then all of these are going to go in Rogue on tier 3, you know. I'm going to put Constellas and Life Twins. I'm going to talk about both of these decks together. Not sure which one is better. They all essentially do the same thing. They're like control decks that are able to draw a couple of their tech cards thanks to Lila and Star Chart respectively. And they have like both in archetype and generic tech they can use to disrupt their opponent going first. I think Life Twin is a bit better because it the issue with like Constella is that if Sombre, your first Sombre gets disrupted, you immediately lose the game right there and there, right? And with all of these decks running rampant, Shiranui can do it, Mayakashi can do it, and Tachyon certainly can do it. It's not really good. Life Twins has access to like the what's it called? The quick play spell that discards stuff and does something, or you can econ. Well, you can't econ against Tachyon Transmigration, but you can econ like a Sun Saga that's happening to mess you up, you know. And Sun Saga also doesn't stop the first Life Twin that you summon from resolving and summoning another Life Twin. But it's still kind of annoying when it happens. Anyway, also the fact that like this deck can play Kaijus, the other can't. Life Twins can play econ, the other cannot. Mind Control is also pretty good in this current meta, because if you take that Tachyon, well, they're gonna fail granted, but then that's one less thing you have to worry about. And I think like Life Twins has better starters than Constellars and is able to play more tech, which is why I think it's the better deck of the two, especially in the current format. Like, both of these are decent control-ish decks, but Life Twins is just a wee bit better. Rockets is still playable. That's a surprise. It is still able to go first and do the exact same thing it used to do. There's like nothing it makes. I guess it has access to Nightmare, but other than that, Nightmare on its own is not enough to take care of Tachyon because the deck is so absurd it can easily slot in stuff like Forbidden Chalice or Droplets to make your fucking Nightmare mood. Book of Moon is also really good this format, and that takes care of Nightmare. That plus, if you're playing one of these decks, if you're playing against a deck that plays Xyz and Core, well, just one less thing to worry about. Although that means you're giving your opponent rockets to flood into, so I might not actually be the best, but still, pretty solid deck. Not the greatest matchup against Tachyon, but like decentish matchup against the rest because it is just so hard to run off the resources. It's a good rogue contender. Another deck I think is Rogue. Blue Eyes, surprisingly, because it turned out that just summoning a Blue Eyes and attacking is like pretty strong and will take care of Tachyon. It's kind of like the funniest answer you could have to Tachyon, right? Unga Bunga. That's not gonna be enough to win you games, but still pretty decent, you know? That and I'm talking about the Battle Chronicle version very specifically because Searching Successor Soul is it's a pretty good card. It's a pretty good card, and then you just make a big Ultimate Dragon. That's pretty much big Unga Bunga big numbers, you know? In times of dire need, you can just turn to Unga Bunga Nick Bagger. This being said, this deck is not that good. It is laughably easy to take care of, and not good enough to like consistently challenge all of these other decks. But still like rogue playable in my opinion. S-Force is there, probably. I don't know enough about that. I just know it's very annoying to face when it goes first, even for stuff like Tachyon. It's a good reason to play Dark Hole, but Dark Hole is not really good in this format, so don't actually play Dark Hole. Well, not really good is kind of a stretch, but like Shiranui is protected against Dark Hole, you know? Tachyon doesn't really care against Dark Hole. It's like, yeah, one of these decks, you know, has the potential to be really annoying going first, but going second it like gets disrupted super easily. Destiny Hero, I think, is a decent rogue option because it's like one of the best shells to make Beatrice, and Beatrice is like able to send Mischief of the Gnomes, and that's pretty much like your main point of interaction against some of the better decks. It's also like pretty good at grinding out games. You know, the second Beatrice can send a Celestial, which draws you 2, which allows you to perform more plays. The deck is still able to make Nightmares, Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. It's able to... Dystopia is not like half a bad boss monster either. You know, it's pretty decent card overall. I think this is a really fine deck. There's also a zombie version that I featured on the channel going around, but like, I don't think this one is as good, specifically because it suffers a lot more against DG Crow, and it gets IGP'd, which was not a problem for the deck before. But it's very funny that like a side effect of Zombie World is making IGP stronger. Oh well. Galaxy. Galaxy is one of these decks that would be really good if it wasn't for Tachyon very specifically hosing it down. It's like insane. This deck is able to make a board that is like it has only 1.5 point of disruption with the Soul Flare and the Felgrand, but then it also has protection with the Star Leech, which you can equip with Photon Orbital, so it protects itself. Remember to do that, Galaxy players. I've seen so many people fail to do it. You should do that. And then there's Hyper Galaxy, which is pretty good disruption. And then there's like so many tools that this deck has access to that should make it really good. But Tachyon exists, and Tachyon is exceptionally good at breaking down combo decks that rely on like one specific starter or like have one really crucial choke point, and the very crucial choke point is it can be a Soulflare summon, can be a Galaxy Knight, because this is technically a -1 until it hits the field. There's like so many ways to hose this deck down. It's kind of sad. Speaking of combo decks that's very easy to disrupt, I think Earth Machines not really good at format. You know, DD Crow, despite not doing much against Tachyon, is still running rampant. Effect Veiler, not very popular right now. So this is one thing the deck is going for it. But then you need Brutal Dozer to resolve. To accomplish anything, your strongest monster outside of like Outrigger extension into Liber is Citadel, which matches poorly against the threats the Tachyon is able to present. Yeah, no, it's not. Like you're playing this against Tachyon going second. Say your Harvester gets a Tachyon Transmigration. It's like, fuck, what do I do now? Well, you still have Fortress that you can special, but that's like one more card that you have to pitch in grave, and then you have to draw the Brutal Dozer, and then the Brutal Dozer just gets Battleground anyway, so it's like, it's not a good format to play combo AV decks, I feel. Anyway, all of these decks are bad. Nearest Hubel, if you're still complaining about this deck, chances are you're really bad at the game. It's an Unga strategy, but it's one that, like, is so easy to disassemble. This might be better than Earth Machines because it's, like, much simpler to play. But also, I don't know, actually, you know what? The more I think about it, the more I think there's some credit to Neos being able to search Super Poly to get rid of the Tachyon Dragon, which is not half bad, but then the Shining gets fucked by Felgrand, and they can pre-shot the Felgrand to protect the Tachyon Dragon. So it's like, I don't know. You know what? I didn't give this deck enough credit. I think there's still ways for this deck to be like okay-ish, doesn't get ITP'd all that easily. I still think it's like copium. Raz garbage. Raz bad, right? It's a deck that loses if it gets DD crowed. It's a deck that does one linear play that everybody will know how to counter. Like, the one choke point this deck has between the untargetable Sphere mode and the unaffected Phoenix mode is the regular RAR, which is a terrible, terrible card that is so easy to get rid of. Should all bad. Cosmo would have been really good because it has this really decent matchup against Constellar and stuff that targets, but like Shiranui doesn't target, so that hurts Cosmo's viability. Mayakashi does target, so Cosmo has a pretty good matchup against Mayakashi, actually, until we, well, actually, no, Mayakashi doesn't target, never mind, so Cosmo bad. Cosmo, not only, like, these two decks take care of it, but also it does fuck all against Tachyon. Cosmo is, like, there, as far as I'm concerned. Two-ship is, like, it's an OTK strategy, and, like, it is one thing we learned from the past few KC Cup formats, like decks that are able to end the game quickly, not that bad. You know, there were a couple of like Order of Chaos lists in, I think it was the last KC Cup, that placed in the top 100, did a pretty good job. So maybe this is like the Order of Chaos of this format, you know? But then again, its turn 1 board is laughably bad. You are able to play through some amount of disruption, but like not all amount of disruption. I don't know. It's either there or it's there, you know? But just for the sake of like convenience, I'm gonna put it there. And then Gearfried variants. Outside of Life Twin, whether I'm talking Gearfried Amazement, Gearfried Ignites or whatever, I also think it's a deck that's not like really good in the current format. That's the tier list. Isn't it a fun metagame that we're in? Hope you have fun playing this KC Cup Stage 2. I won't. I'm gonna like complete Stage 1, but Stage 2 is like, I don't have the mental fortitude or masochism or sadism required to, no, it's masochism required to play Stage 2, so thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you agree, disagree. Take care, and I'll see you guys and gals, non-binary pals, in a better format.